So you introduce the tariff, then what happens?
And then the price of the good like goes up.
Price of the good rises. Quantity of imports falls. And have you achieved your primary objective, which is to reduce the number of imports?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Then, of course, Megan, we then go on to say, aha, there are these 4 areas. Would you like to talk to us about?
Yeah. It's consumer welfare.
Okay, so 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equal consumer surplus or consumer wealth at a price of what? When would that be counted as consumer welfare? When price is PNZ or when price is PNZ plus 3? Correct. Yeah, because remember, consumer surplus is area
Below demand, above price.
above price, below demand. Yeah. Okay. And then would you like to say anything about 1, 2, 3 and 4?
Well, number 1 is the new producer surplus.
Okay, so that was consumer surplus and now it's been transformed to
Into
producer surplus. 3
3 is government revenue.
was consumer surplus, now transformed into
Government revenue, tax revenue.
yeah, government revenue, GREV. Okay. Now the benefit of those 2 is what, Megan? So even though they've gone from the consumer to the producer and or the government, very good, yes, so they'll be redistributed. The government might spend it on new roads or what is it just boosted spending on this week, Megan, in the press? Megan? Megan's handling. Megan is handling all of this. Megan's handling this. Defense. Okay. And might use it, they might invest, and they might expand, etc. Okay, and what then would you like to say about 2 and 4?
It's the deadweight welfare losses.
Okay, so 2 and 4, the DWLs, the deadweight welfare losses. And why is that? Because 2 and 4...
Like, the money kind of disappears, it doesn't go to anyone.
Okay, no, rather than saying anyone, it doesn't go to any of the other economic agents. Okay. Excellent. So that probably covers that particular one. Right. So next one then, we moved on. So the second of the 3, so the second of the 3 that we looked at was with JM, what was it? Trade creation. Right. Now, JM, before I even draw this, the trade creation diagram is simply saying... Yeah, exactly. So trade creation, really, it's about the effects of the removal of the tariff. And the example, which is often quoted in your textbooks, and that we considered was tariffs will be removed whenever a nation joins a single market, sort of free trade area. Yeah. Okay. So really, this diagram, JM, it's kind of that one, but you're working it the other way, you're going the other way around, yeah. So instead of implementing the tariff, you're just taking it off. So this one, we go in in that direction, you're implementing the tariff, but this one we're going in this direction because you're removing the tariff. Okay. And Jonathan, so what did we give when we looked at this initially? What did we give by way of example?
Trade with Germany or France.
Okay, I mean,
What are you?
member of a fellow European Union nation state. Okay. Such as France or Germany. Okay. So what do we have into what would you label these then, Jonathan, in that respect?
The top one would be the price plus tariff,
Yeah.
and then the bottom would just be
Okay, so it could be PF, France, if you will, with the tariff, and then this one is without.
and then you would bring the lines down by from each.
Yeah.
Point of C and D.
So it's just you're going exactly the opposite direction. So you're saying that when you have the tariff, you don't actually do as extensive trading, do you, with France, as shown by this distance?
Yeah.
But then you join the free trade area, or you join the bloc, whatever it might be. Tariff comes off,
You both agree.
and then you then trade more. So you get that increased amount of imports in this instance. So there we're getting our trade creation. Is it possible, Jonathan, to 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, they're all gains in consumers.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, they're all picked up again. And as you rightly say, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 in this case. In this case, when you increase the tariff, you're losing that as consumer surplus. Now you're obviously reducing the price, and therefore these are all increases in the consumer surplus. Anything else to say about that one, Jonathan?
You can be pricing out more of the domestic firms from the market by increasing the imports.
Yeah, so your domestic residents, for example, might start switching and buying more of the foreign produced goods and services rather than your own domestic ones. True. Okay, but again, that's fairly straightforward, I think. And then the last one, the trade diversion. No, just before we get into the diagram, the general gist of trade diversion is what?
That change changing buy from the world's most efficient supplier to a less efficient supplier because the prices are lower due to free trade agreement.
Yes. So you switch your purchasing from the lowest cost producer in the world to one which is maybe less efficient, but because of the implementation of the tariff, it means that it's still actually more cost effective to buy from someone who's in your block but less efficient than from the world's most efficient producer. Okay. Now, Saffron or Ellie, who would like to? Nicely swerved there, Ellie.
Same pretty much start as before, so the domestic supply, domestic demand, and then
Yeah.
in the middle, so task fees, where there's no trade, and then at, and then do, let's say New Zealand at the very bottom, right, because it's the cheapest and most
Yeah.
efficient.
Okay, so as we described at the beginning, the diversion involves moving from the lowest cost world producer which we assume here is New Zealand, yeah.
And then just above, actually no, I'll go from the top. And then if you add the tariff, so not quite at the top, but in the middle-ish, because you need to put German tariff in there, technically.
Okay, so,
Yeah, to there.
yeah.
So you might want if you want to put Germany's tariff on as well.
Yeah, so I think we'll rather, to keep it a little bit simpler, rather than have the 4, we'll leave it with 3, I think this time.
In between them, use the Germany's price,
Okay,
and that's after the free trade agreement.
yeah.
So
We've got the world's lowest cost producer. We've got a less efficient producer who's a near neighbour, whose price would probably have been somewhere closer to P star had we not been member of the bloc, and therefore we would still have bought from New Zealand. However, we joined the bloc, and as a consequence of joining the bloc,
we buy from Germany,
we buy from Germany.
because it's cheaper than the tariff from New Zealand.
Okay.
Even though it's more efficient.
So we're moving from this price down to this price, basically. Okay.
Well, the things on the domestic ones, yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
So 3 and 5 is the loss of tax revenue.
Yeah.
1 still consumer surplus, so it hasn't changed, has it? Yeah. You said that 5 if is smaller than 2 plus 4, then it's a net gain as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else to add?
Okay.
Um,
So let's just on that point, because I was thinking about this. Today. So when you move from PNZ plus T down to PG, so the price in New Zealand with the tariff, then we switch and we buy from a near neighbour, Germany. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 immediately becomes what? Saffron? Increase in consumer surplus, yeah. So that is equal to a rise in consumer surplus. Now, just why is it that we're losing 3 and 5?
Isn't it because the tariff and then on the bottoms that
Because we're no longer buying from you, size of tariff imposed upon it, because we're no longer buying from New Zealand, we're losing 3 and 5. So the price is only dropping to G, but that doesn't matter because when we stop buying from New Zealand, then the government is losing all of the tariff revenue. So the price drops a bit for us, but the government loses 3 and 5 because you're not buying from New Zealand any longer. So hence the reason why that is the reduction or the loss of your government's tax revenue. And therefore, if 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, basically all gains, because there are rises in consumer surplus, we are saying there'll be a net gain if
2 plus 4 is bigger than 5.
Yeah, 2 plus 4 is bigger than 5.